There's generally low contrast light from what I can see right now. The contrast between the structures and the sky is pretty low. And just above this building, I can see much farther into the distance, just rising over at another building. And actually, the contrast between that building and the sky is quite stark. And the contrast between the blue of the sky and the white of the clouds is very low. And again, there is a graphic contrast between the sky and clouds and the dark birds and the power lines that are extending from my vision between the left side of my vision to the right. And again, a graphic quality can be observed between the mortar and the brick in the building directly in front of me. And the most graphic contrast I can observe directly in front of me is a black 1 printed on a white rectangle. And there's a plant growing in front of the brick building that I can see. And it is very weakly defined, so much so that it looks like parts of the plant are floating in space and not connected to anything on the ground. There's generally low contrast light from what I can see right now. And the contrast between the structures and the sky is pretty low. And looking straight ahead now, I can see at the farthest point a dark cluster of trees that extends to the left and right just beyond this building. What I'm able to see, I can see because it is obscured much farther into the distance by more brick buildings just rising over at another building. And actually, the contrast between that building and the sky is quite stark. And the contrast between, and in my right hand I'm the blue of the sky and the white of the clouds. The full grip of my fist is very low around my microphone, and in my left hand I experience, and again there's a graphic more pointed pressure of between the sky and clouds. All of my fingers, dark birds, the XLR cable, and the power lines that are extending from my vision between the left side of my vision to the right. And I can detect several pebbles underneath And my graphic quality can be observed between that are putting greater points of pressure and the brick and the building directly in front of me, of the bottoms of my feet. And the most graphic contrast I can observe directly in front of me is a black 1 printed on a white rectangle. And now I can see another building, and there's a far in the distance peeking above the building directly in front of me, the building that I can see. And it is very weakly defined, so much so that it looks like parts of the plant are floating in space and not connected to anything on the ground. There's generally, there is a variety of light pattern in the brick directly in front of me, and also, from what I can see, variation and patchiness at points to the mortar between the bricks. The more patterns are defined, the structures by wooden slats to a door that's opening into nothing, about 1 story up. I'm looking straight ahead now. I can see at the farthest point a dark cluster of trees, and I can detect that extends to the left and right beyond this building what I'm able to see of skin, because it is obscured, but are more distinct by more brick buildings, have rising over insect bites, another building that are irritating and causing me to focus more on those patches of skin. The contrast between that building and the sky is quite stark. And the contrast between, and in my right hand I'm experiencing the white of the clouds and a soft white, the full grip of my fist floating seed around, just floating my microphone across my vision. And in my left hand, diagonally, experience and again the bottom right, more pointed pressure of between the sky and all of my fingers gripping the XLR cable, and more pattern can be discerned, and the power lines that are in the mullioned windows and my vision that are between half boarded outside and my vision half retaining perhaps the original panes. And I can detect several pebbles underneath my feet. Quality can be observed between that are putting greater points of pressure. And turning back to my original stand, certain parts in front of me, it seems as if the contrast has been heightened in the lower light between the building, the most graphic and the sky. I can observe directly in front of me is a black 1 printed on a white rectangle. Through the open door I can see pieces of sewn together. And now I can see another building, tubes far in the distance peeking above, serpentine the building directly in front of me, the building that I can see, various bright objects resting, and it is very weakly on one half of a table, the other half of that table like extending to the parts left of the plant are floating in beyond space, my vision, connected through the doorway to anything on the ground. There's generally, and there is a variety of light pattern in the brick directly in front of me, and also, from what I can see, a variation and patchiness at points to the mortar between the bricks. And from the door, more patterns are defined by wooden slats, orange to a door extension cord opening into nothing. I can see about first snaking 1 story to the right, and then looking straight ahead, vanishing behind a white Nissan. I can see, then reappearing to the right. At the farthest point, and traveling towards me, a dark cluster of trees, and then again out of my field of vision. I can detect that extends to the left and right beyond this building what I'm able to see. Areas of skin, because it is obscure, that are more distinct by more brick building structures. I see insect bites, third farther structure that are irritating a large verdant causing me to focus more. Those patches of skin between that building and the sky is quite a small cloud. It's dark. And the contrast between
And in my right hand I'm experiencing
the white of the clouds
and a soft white,
full grip of my fist,
floating seed
around,
just floated
my microphone
across my vision.
and
now
my
in
left
this
traveling
diagonally
diagonally
experience
from
and again
the bottom right to the
more
upper
point
left.
of pressure
A
of
street light that
between
has the sky
perhaps
all of my
illuminated,
fingers, dark
gripping
birds, the XLR
in the time since I
cable,
turned away,
and
or
more
perhaps
can be discerned.
I did not notice
power
it
lines until the
There's
light
a million
dim
windows
enough, and my vision
that are
between
half boarded up
outside
and
my vision to
half
the right.
retaining perhaps the original panes. And I can detect several pebbles underneath my feet, and
Quality can be
there's
observed between
that are
the
putting
farthest point
greater
I can
points
see.
of pressure.
And
turning back to my original stand,
flying directly parallel.
It seems as if the contrast has
the
been
building that
heightened
I can see
in the lower light between the
and
building
moving
and the sky.
I can observe directly in
From
front
my
of me.
perspective,
It's
about
a black one,
an inch a
Printed
second.
on
And through the
white
open door, I
rectangle.
can see and heading towards a taller piece of building that is the second farthest point that I can see.
Another building,
Tubes far in the distance peeking above, and serpentine shapes
directly in
brick.
front of me.
And now it has gone behind
that I
the
can
tower.
see.
Various bright objects resting
It is very
on one half of a table, the
So
other
much
half
so
of
that
the table
it looks like
extending to the
parts
left
of the plant are floating in
beyond
space.
my
And I can
vision,
detect at least
through the
two
doorway
sores in my
on the
mouth
ground that I've been monitoring over the course of the day.
There's generally
And there is a
low
variety
contrast
of
light
which have
pattern
now
in the brick
begun to heal
directly in
front of me, and also
from what I can see.
a variation
Don't cause me much
and
pain at
patchiness
all
at points
any longer.
to the mortar between the bricks. And from
The
the door, more patterns are defined
The structure
by
is
wooden
noticeable
slats, orange
to a door
extension
that's
cord
opening into
that I can
nothing.
see,
About
first snaking
one story
to the
up.
right and
I'm
then
looking straight ahead,
just
vanishing
vanishing
behind.
behind
I can
a white
see,
Nissan,
see
then reappearing to the
someone
right,
cleaning the
farthest
back of
point
their
and traveling
car,
towards me,
a dark cluster of trees,
and the back
and then again out of
windshield,
my field of
and I can
vision.
detect
And there's a
that
purple spray
extends
bottle
to the left and right,
just
rested
beyond
on
this
the
building
trunk
that
of
I'm
the
able
car.
to
Areas of
see
skin
because
it is
much
obscure,
more
that are more distinct because
brick
between two
building
brick
has
structures I see
methodically
wiping
a third
farther structure, and
irritating
beyond that, a large verdant
causing
hill
me to focus more.
those patches
And then
of
beyond
skin
that,
between that building and the sky is quite
a small cloud.
dark. And the contrast
And
between
in my right hand I'm
the blue of the sky and the
experiencing
white of the clouds. And a soft
now I'm
white,
noticing for the
full
first
grip of
time
my fist,
it's
floating
very
seed
around
just
very
floated
small microphone
across my vision.
And
now in this
diagonally
diagonally experience
that I can
the
only
bottom right
make
to
out
the
point of
left
because of my
pressure.
familiarity with
Street light
that symbol,
perhaps
of my
illuminated,
designating a handicapped
gripping
spot.
The
In the time since
but
I
my
turned
eyesight
away,
is not
or
quite good
perhaps
enough. I did not
to
notice
clearly
it
discern
until the
the
light became
letters
dim
or
enough
the symbol
that are
between
half boarded up
outside
and
my vision to
half
the right.
retaining. These days I've been wondering
Perhaps
the original
if my
panes
vision
is getting worse. And I can detect several pebbles underneath my feet, and there's
observed between
that are at the farthest point I can
points of
see
pressure.
a commercial jet airline
stand
flying
directly parallel.
Seems as if the
to
contrast
roof
the
of the building that I can
see
in my upper body and in my eyes
and moving
as I
and
hold
the
them.
sky.
I can observe directly
Very
from
close
my
to my
perspective
face
about
is a black one,
needlessly
inch
close.
a
And
second. And through the open door I can see, and heading
But I've not
towards
been
a taller
conscious
piece of building.
I am
That is the second farthest point that I can
has
see.
stuff
Observe tubes far in the distance peeking above, and serpentine
my
shapes
external
directly in front of
surroundings.
me. And now it has gone
And a
behind
mosquito
the
has
tower.
just
Various
flown
bright
onto my
objects
resting.
resting on one half of a table, the other half of the table extending to the left are floating in space. And I can detect at least 2 sores in my mouth, my temple, that I've been monitoring over the course of the day. There's generally, and there is a variety of light which have now in the brick begun to heal to my right, and also just in the periphery of my vision. Don't cause me much pain at all at points any longer. Has just been between the bricks, illuminated, and from the door. And this one, more patterns are defined. Is more of a tungsten hue by wooden slats, orange to a door, extension cord, opening into nothing. I can see the brighter white first snaking the one story to the right, just behind, looking straight ahead, and just to the right behind, I can see, then reappearing to the right, someone cleaning the back of their and traveling towards me, a dark cluster of trees in the back windshield. And now I'm quite certain that the mosquitoes drinking from my face because left and right, irritation is beginning to develop areas of skin. Because just above my that are more distinct, because in between 2 brick-stone figures methodically wiping the back windshield, and it's slightly painful. A large verdant hill to focus more. And those patches of beyond that, between that building and the sky is quite a small cloud. It's dark. And the contrast between, and in my right hand I'm experiencing the white of the clouds. Now I'm noticing for the first time a fist floating seed, very small across my vision, handicap sign above the white Nissan, and it was there behind the white Nissan because of my familiarity with that symbol, the orange extension designating a handicap spot in the time since my eyesight is not so absorbed with the orange extension clearly discern that I failed the letters or the symbol, the enormous rat that is boarded above the white Nissan. And these days I've been wondering perhaps the original if my vision is getting worse. And I can detect several pebbles underneath my feet, and there's between at the farthest point I can see pressure. And I momentarily entertained a fantasy where I'm directly parallel, as if the space just above the building, the eyebrow where the mosquito has bit my body, swelling to a freakish proportion and disfiguring me, very close to my face. Black one, needlessly close, and through the open door I can see, and perhaps that fantasy was inspired in part conscious about a bee sting my friend recently sustained, comporting like a forehead that caused the entirety of her face to swell in the distance, peeking above, and mostly my external surroundings, and now it has gone. And she, the mosquito, has just had it examined and was told 2 conflicting diagnoses, one that she is allergic to bees and requires an EpiPen, extending. And then another conflicting diagnosis that she is not allergic to bees, sores in my mouth, does not require an EpiPen. I've been monitoring over the course of the day. There's generally, and there is a variety of light which have now in the brick begun to heal. And to my right, now there is a burning sensation just above my left eyebrow. Another street light at points any longer has just been between the bricks, illuminated, and from the door. And this one, more patterns are defined, is more of a tungsten hue by wooden slats. And clouds have largely dissipated, extension cord compared to directly in front of brighter white, first snaking slightly up. I can straight right, just behind the first star, and just to the right that I've seen today, and so this is now the farthest point I can see. Back of there and traveling towards me, a dark cluster of trees in the back windshield. And now I'm quite certain that the mosquitoes drinking from my face because an irritation is beginning to develop areas of skin. Because just above my left eyebrow, because in between 2 brick-stone figures methodically wiping the back windshield, and it's slightly painful. A large verdant hill to focus more. And those patches of beyond that, between that building and the sky is quite a small cloud. It's dark.
Thanks, everyone.